At 37, Daniel looked successful. He had a respectable job, a comfortable home, a new car, and a lifestyle that made people believe he was doing well. But every month, the same scene repeated itself. Daniel sat at the kitchen table surrounded by bills, credit card statements, and payment reminders. His salary arrived at the beginning of the month and disappeared before the month was over. One evening, his wife asked him a simple question. "Daniel, how much money do we actually have?" He opened his banking app, looked at the balance, and remained silent. They had income, they had possessions, but they had no control. That night, Daniel finally understood something painful. Looking wealthy and being financially secure were not the same thing. This is the problem Dave Ramsey addresses in the Total Money Makeover. He argues that success with money is not mainly about intelligence or complicated mathematics. It is mostly about behavior, what we repeatedly choose to do with the money that passes through our hands. Daniel decided that his financial life had to change. But instead of searching for a quick investment, a secret business, or a magical way to double his money, he began with something much more uncomfortable. He looked in the mirror. He realized that the problem was not only his salary, the economy, or the cost of living. The problem was also his behavior. He was buying things he could not afford, using tomorrow's income to pay for yesterday's decisions. So, for the first time, Daniel and his wife created a written monthly budget. They listed their income. Then they gave every dollar a purpose: food, housing, transport, utilities, debt repayment, and savings. There was no money left for careless spending. At first, the budget felt restrictive. But after a few weeks, Daniel noticed something surprising. The budget was not taking away his freedom. It was showing him where his money had been escaping. The first step in Ramsey's plan was to save a small emergency fund of $1,000. Daniel initially wanted to put every available dollar toward his credit cards. But then he understood the reason for the emergency fund. Without savings, even a small problem could send him back into debt. A car repair, a medical bill, a broken appliance. Any of these could destroy his progress. So Daniel sold an unused television, cancelled unnecessary subscriptions, and worked extra hours during the weekend. Within 1 month, he had saved $1,000. It was not enough to make him wealthy. But for the first time, there was something standing between his family and another credit card payment. Ramsey describes this starter fund as protection against smaller emergencies while a person begins eliminating debt. Then came the most difficult part, the debt snowball. Daniel listed every non-mortgage debt from the smallest balance to the largest. A small store card came first, then a personal loan, then the credit cards, finally the car loan. Mathematically, paying the highest interest debt first might have saved slightly more money. But the debt snowball was designed around motivation. Daniel continued making minimum payments on every debt, but he attacked the smallest balance with everything he had. 2 months later, the first debt disappeared. For the first time, he crossed one creditor off the list. That small victory changed his energy. The payment from the first debt was then added to the next one. When the second debt disappeared, both payments were added to the third. The snowball grew. Progress became faster. The book recommends this order because visible victories give people the motivation to continue. During this period, Daniel's lifestyle changed completely. He stopped trying to impress people. He packed lunch instead of eating outside. He drove the same car. He avoided unnecessary shopping. Some friends laughed at him. But Daniel had discovered a powerful truth. It is better to look ordinary and become financially free than to look wealthy while living under financial pressure. After 2 years of focused effort, Daniel made the final car payment. For the first time in his adult life, he had no consumer debt. His income was finally his own. But the journey was not finished. The third step was to build a complete emergency fund covering 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. Daniel continued living on the same strict budget. But instead of sending money to lenders, he sent it into savings. Month after month, the emergency fund grew. Then, one afternoon, Daniel received unexpected news. His company was restructuring, and his position was being eliminated. A few years earlier, those words would have terrified him. He would have worried about the mortgage, groceries, and credit card payments. But now, Daniel had no consumer debt and several months of expenses saved. Losing his job was still serious, but it was no longer a financial disaster. The emergency fund had turned a crisis into a difficult but manageable inconvenience, one of the major benefits emphasized in the book. Within 2 months, Daniel found another job. Now he was ready for the next stage. He began investing 15% of his household income for retirement. After that, he started building an education fund for his children. Then he began making additional payments toward the home mortgage. These goals took years, not weeks. There were no dramatic overnight results, no lottery ticket, no secret investment, just consistency. Eventually, the day arrived when Daniel made the final mortgage payment. He returned home, placed the document on the same kitchen table where he had once sat surrounded by bills, and called his wife. This time, the numbers told a different story. No credit card debt, no car payment, no personal loans, no mortgage, a complete emergency fund, growing retirement investments, education savings for the children. Daniel had not become free because his income suddenly became enormous. He became free because he stopped allowing debt and careless spending to control his income. And that leads to the final step, building wealth. But Ramsey warns that wealth itself is not the final purpose. Money has 3 healthy uses. You can enjoy it, you can invest it, and you can give it. Wealth is not merely a reward, it is also a responsibility. Daniel could now travel without borrowing. He could help his children without destroying his retirement. He could support people in need. Most importantly, money no longer controlled the atmosphere inside his home. That is the real message of the Total Money Makeover. Financial freedom does not begin when you earn millions. It begins when you take control of what you already earn. Save a small emergency fund. Eliminate your debts one by one. Build proper financial protection. Invest consistently. Prepare for your children's future. Pay off your home. Then use your wealth with purpose. You may have to live differently from everyone else today, but one day you may be able to live with a level of freedom that most people never experience.